It's 4-0 Carolina, and now a 3-1 series lead, heading home for Game 5.
And there is a saying that they use. Shane Gostisbehere called it, drag them into the deep water. The longer you take them into the deep water, the harder it is to tread water.
How hard is it to have the composure to realize sometimes when you have space to make plays?
Yeah, that's part of it. I feel like we have players with the most space with the puck, and we don't skate enough. We pass it to a player with no space, so you kind of play into their pressure, and it's a little bit of that. The guy with the most ice in space should take the ice. Not playing fast enough when we have the puck with our feet. We're not playing fast enough off the puck so we can kind of bypass the pressure. And they got really, really good sticks.
Up ahead, Evans. New hook. Along with Zelda. Here's Caulfield. And Jarvis. And here's a break. It's still to no end. He's really jumped up to come up with a puck. Somebody pass. Score!
Don't waste my time.
Obviously, I recorded that and edited it before the result of tonight's game, but sometimes it's the thought that counts, right? Which is an interesting sentiment because there's fans now wondering, was the proper thought put into this game or into the past few games for that matter? Or is all that just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic? I'm going to talk about tonight's game, recap it a little bit, the things worth mentioning, give you my general thoughts. So, hey, what the heck? Let's talk about it.
And it looks like he hasn't missed a beat.
I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try.
Yeah, I edited that video earlier today when I had the idea that the Canadiens would come out really strong and make it a close game at least. Backs up against the wall, just played like a couple of really bad games, I thought they'd dig deep. I thought they'd try different things, but no, that didn't really happen. And it's got some fans scratching their heads a little bit. So I've gone ahead, I've watched the post-game interviews, trying to get some insight, trying to get some answers. Because contrary to what a lot of people believe, these players didn't want to perform poorly. The coaching staff didn't want to make all the wrong mistakes. So what really happened in this series? Before we get to all that, thank you guys so much for this incredible season, the incredible postseason. The channel has grown exponentially. When I started this channel as a Habs channel, I had just a hair above 3,000 subscribers. Now we have over 25,000 subscribers, nearing 26,000 subscribers. Can you help me get there? Everyone else hit the like button, helps me out with search results or something like that. The good news is it doesn't end here. I'm not stopping. I'm going to be here no matter what. All summer long. There's news that trickles in all the time. I might do some more general NHL news and stuff like that. And I was thinking about doing Canadiens retrospective videos. I know a lot of people liked those last summer. Player spotlights, talk about a specific player, maybe in Habs history, or maybe a current player, talk about their background. I could do kind of like a documentary style video. Let me know what you think about that. And let me know if you have any ideas for future videos. But getting back to the game, sadly, the Montreal Canadiens lost 6-1. They have been eliminated from Stanley Cup contention. Effectively, this is the end of their postseason. The Carolina Hurricane move on to face the Vegas Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Finals. I will definitely credit the Carolina Hurricane. They really responded after basically getting their butts whooped the first game by coming back and dominating every other game except, there was that overtime loss that was pretty close. There's arguments there that it was closer than what it looked like, but I digress. They won it fair and square, and the Canadiens could have responded in different ways, and there might have been management changes that could have made this a more effective game for the Canadiens. But we have to live with the reality that we're in because that's hockey, baby. But why did the Canadiens come out so flat after game one? Was it really that the Carolina Hurricanes were rusty in that first game and the Canadiens took advantage of that? And then every game afterwards, the Carolina Hurricane were prepared and understood the pace of the game, I think that could explain a lot of it. I think also the Carolina Hurricane are in much better shape right now than the Montreal Canadiens. They won 4 games twice in both their first series to eliminate their opponents. And then they went on vacation, maxing, relaxing, all cool, shooting some b-ball outside of the school. And I think we will learn more as the days go on. Someone might go for a surgery, for example. That tells you a lot of information right there. At times, like we saw with the Philadelphia Flyers, they'll unveil a laundry list of injuries. I don't think that the Canadiens will do that. I kind of find that in bad taste. If the player in question wants to let the media know exactly what they were dealing with throughout the playoffs, that's fine. But just releasing a list like that as an organization feels a little bit like an excuse. Okay, I just went down a rabbit hole. I had to fact check myself to make sure that was an official list that was released. And yeah, sure enough, Danielle Briere released a list of injuries that the team sustained. Emile Andre, fractured wrist. Alex Bump, MCL sprain. Noah Cates, fractured foot. Christian Dvorak, fractured rib, separated shoulder. Nikita Grabankin, upper body injury. Garnet Hathaway, fractured fibula. Travis Konechny, fractured rib, nasal fracture. Owen Tippett, internal bleeding core muscle injury. That was a big one. Cam York, fractured rib. Trevor Zegras, elbow ligament sprain. And I think that this all segues well into my reviews of the post-game interviews by the Canadiens. They were asked, several times by reporters. It's a question that gets asked a lot. Who's dealing with what? What were the injuries? What would you say was the impact of being beat up going into the series versus the Carolina Hurricane, who had a rest between series? And you had to read between the lines a little bit. I think Nick Suzuki gave us a little bit on that. And I think he kind of held his tongue against his cheek, because he said, at this time of the year, we're all dealing with something. I don't know if that's like a kind of reading between the lines about, a lot of players on the team are injured currently, or that Carolina isn't dealing with as many injuries as they are. And it was definitely a factor. But I think that's definitely something you have to take into consideration, right? In terms of the expectations for this series. The Canadiens were already showing signs of strain against the Buffalo Sabres. You could tell that the tone in the Tampa Bay series, they were ready to come out with a physical game. And then against Buffalo, they showed it here and there, but they were running out of steam. I don't know what players talk about. I don't know the politics and the bureaucracy that takes place during the game outside of, referees making makeup calls and just doing all sorts of weird shenanigans in regards to game management. I know that in the past, teams have said, hey, our series, we're a rival team, and these games usually get out of hand. Do you think we could rein it in a little bit this time? Make sure nobody gets injured? I'm not sure if those conversations happen during the playoffs. Everybody's enemies during the playoffs, right? Even friends. But you can definitely tell that the Montreal Canadiens took some sort of a conscious decision not to ramp up the physicality in this series. And that's a card that you can play. That's always something that you'd like to have up your sleeve. Get those little scrums going behind the net. Get in your opponent's face a little bit. Try to intimidate them. Put a target on your back. Make yourself a dirty player. Can you be the pest that takes your opponent off their game? A lot of those games within the game didn't happen this series for the Montreal Canadiens. They were pretty much a one-trick pony. And that trick was to try to find their pace and beat the Carolina Hurricane at their own game. And you know what? They could not find that pace. They could not outpace the Carolina Hurricane. And in the end, that's what killed them. Could they have made changes? Yeah, certainly. I would have loved to have seen changes. I would have really liked to have seen Brendan Gallagher in. I would have really liked to have seen Arber Xhekaj in. In terms of the Black Aces, I just don't think you bring those guys into the game this late into the playoffs. And the other component of this that I love and hate talking about is the methodology of the coaching staff on the Montreal Canadiens. If you've watched them for a long time and been critical of their decisions, you know that they try to play a fair game with their players. If you're out there trying your best, performing, not giving up, they're going to continue giving chances. And throughout these playoffs, Martin St. Louis has tried different guys. They've all gotten their opportunities. Some rose to the occasion and others didn't. Personally, I think Brendan Gallagher did fine when he was offered the ability to play a couple of games, although it was apparent that he was not there in terms of the speed of the game and only played middling minutes. Yasuaki also played very well, but he still has difficulty against the boards, pulling the puck out, getting it to his teammates. In this Carolina series, that is a very important skill to have. The transition game in this series is what you live and die on. And yeah, they weren't connecting. They lacked execution and pace was not good because of it. So adding Yasuaki to the lineup didn't help in that area, but I would have liked to have seen what he could have done in terms of creating chaos. Same with Brendan Gallagher. And I think that that's where the frustration from the fans come from. They wanted to see something different. What was happening wasn't working, but they just kept doing it over and over and over again.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is?
So in that way, I totally understand, can totally commiserate with you. But also knowing on the other side of the coin, how they operate, how they make their decisions, it was not shocking to me that they went that route. So not the way that you would have liked the season to end. 4 back-to-back pretty gut-wrenching games. But if this season would have ended after the first game of the Carolina series, as a Habs fan, you'd be walking in the air. So in some ways, it's worthwhile just thinking about how well they did in the first and second series and say, hey, they came out in this series, they had a dominant game, but because of the circumstances, whether it be injuries, be the rest that the Carolina Hurricane have, the fact that the Hurricane system versus the Montreal system, it's not a very complementary system to the Montreal system, first of all, but also how you play in the playoffs. The Montreal system it's a grueling, hardworking system that expends a lot of energy, and it's not necessarily the most efficient system. The Carolina Hurricane are extremely efficient and good at what they do, and they've been playing the system for a long time. Their guys have all bought in. So all they have to do is fall back on their foundation and forecheck and backcheck really hard, and they got you in a trap. So that's kind of where I'm at with unpacking this. In terms of looking forward, they've learned so much, and they've gotten so much good experience from this. This will leave them hungry for the future. It's great for the core. It's great for the players that are staying. For the players that are going to be no longer part of the team, well, I think that the coaching staff, the management team understands what those individuals brought to the team, what they need to go out and find in order to replace them and upgrade, which segues into another bit of information that I was able to suss from the post-game interviews. They don't give you a lot. A lot of the players say, hey, credit to the Carolina Hurricane. They're a very good team. We came up against a wall. We need to find ways of getting better. I think that the team has learned a lot this season. It was a great season. I just had such a great time, blah, 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 this and that. A lot of fluff. Kind of shockingly, Lane Hudson was the one that gave us maybe the tastiest nugget.
Sucks that you couldn't get your best. What do you think stops you from getting to your best? Not you personally, but the group.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, not really sure. You know, combination of things. Maybe, you know, they played really well too, but not really sure why we couldn't, you know, bring better. But I mean, we're still far off, and we know it. You know, I think this just instills some more fuel for us next year.
To me, what that said is that there were certain players that maybe they knew weren't putting their whole selves into it. Because personally, I could see it. There are players out there that were playing harder than others, and maybe they're all beat up. They're all cleared to play, and maybe some are more cleared than others. I don't know. But as a team, you all want to be kind of contributing the same amount. And I don't know if there's maybe a little bit of hard feelings there, or maybe there's something in the locker room, which could be bad, could be good too. It's good to be realistic with yourselves. But I just really thought that was an interesting comment from Hudson. I'm editing this now, and listening to what I said there about Hudson's comment, it was probably just an innocent comment. I don't think I should have read into it that much. We'll wait to hear more. It's almost 2 a.m. I thought I was going to do this like in a short video. I knew I wasn't going to recap the game completely because really, okay, the game, talking about the game, Montreal looked better than they did last game. And then the first goal, unfortunate goal. It should have been overturned. They challenged it. It was to most people online, what I'm seeing, and not just in the Habs community, a very obvious goaltender interference call. But they did not overturn the goal, and Montreal was penalized for it. They did kill that penalty, but then they scored again and again in the first. So down 3-0 again, a demoralizing start for the Montreal Canadiens, and it continued to slide from there, and it became one of those depressive games. So really boring. Caulfield got a goal.
Suzuki, Walker, Miller, la rondelle est interceptée, devant, Caulfield, le tir au but!
It gave them like the glimmer of some energy. They ended up pulling Dobesh, and they scored on the open net. Just another really deflating game that if it was a regular season game, they'd brush it off and say, hey, on to the next. But it don't work like that in the playoffs. So how about I call it right there, and maybe we talk some more about unpacking this season, because I think that there's a lot of important things that management needs to do, and I think that I can grade these players now on a pretty good report card system. As always, let me know what you think, what you thought about this series, how you think that the Habs are doing in terms of development. Were you happy with the outcome of these playoffs? Were you disappointed? Were you disappointed because of how it ended? I want to know, so share with me down in the comments. That's going to do it for me, guys. You guys know what to do. Like the video, helps me out with, I don't know, search results or something. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I'd love to have you. And as always, I will see you down in the comments.
So what is it, like almost 6 weeks? 7 weeks we've been at it? See, that's the hardest part about when it's over like this. It's try to go back to a normal life and like try, because I have no idea what's going on in the world right now.